Hey guys, my name's Emma. If you're new here, welcome back to my channel. So, you may have noticed that things have changed a little bit, not that much, don't worry. I am on my camcorder instead of my actual camera because my actual camera, although it is lovely and awesome, does not have a mic jack. And as you can tell, I've acquired myself a microphone. Now, who let me have a microphone, you may ask? Well, I blame my friend Martha. Martha, if you're watching this, love you. She gave me an Amazon gift card, and I have bought a microphone because God knows I need to yap more. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, welcome into today's video. Today we're going to be talking about APs and AP exams, especially because I know scores just came out. Also, it is thunderstorming, so excuse that. Basically, I wanted to do a little bit of a more chill video, giving you guys some advice, sharing my scores for this year, kind of just having a little chit chat about AP exams, my thoughts, and I guess just kind of having a casual and chill discussion about it. What I thought of the exams, my advice, prep, stuff like that. So if talking about any of that sounds good to you, grab a snack, grab a drink. I probably won't be yapping for too long, but this is just going to be a little bit of a more informal, chill video. I've had a few comments kind of asking about high school and my high school tips, high school advice, so I figured I'd start with this video, the AP exams, just to kind of talk about one specific topic. And if you guys are interested in this type of content, I could do a whole like high school advice video. You guys will have to let me know down below because as crazy as it sounds, I'm not in high school anymore, so I can give my retrospective thoughts about many things, including AP exams. So without further ado, let's get right on into the video. So, I just graduated high school. I'm class of 2024, as you probably know, and this year I took AP Spanish, AP Lit, and Language and Literature, and AP Stats. I don't know why that took me so long to remember. And last year I took AP Lang and APUSH. So basically, my school works a little bit differently to most high schools in the US. They don't necessarily stack APs, as I know a lot of schools, at least for my cousins in like other states, they tend to let you do APs quite a lot earlier. But at my school, you couldn't take APs until junior year with the exception of computer science principles, which you could take sophomore year. But because I kind of knew I wasn't going into anything STEM related and I was more on an English kind of course, I basically waited until my junior year to take APs, obviously, and then continued on into my senior year. So starting off in my junior year, like I said, I took APUSH and I took AP Lang. I will say APUSH is a lot of work if you're thinking about taking it. However, my teacher definitely over-prepared us. He basically had us do a full multiple choice and then a full either DBQ or long essay, basically as a part of a test. So by the time I got to the exam, I did about 10 of those, maybe like 9, switching off between like a long essay and a DBQ each unit. So I was very practiced for APUSH. I will say for APUSH, it definitely depends on like the teacher. I do think mine maybe went a little too hard with the preparation, considering that the actual exam from there was pretty easy. But overall, pretty good experience. I'd say I recommend APUSH if you're interested in history. It is a lot of memorization, but also good writing skills definitely come into play, and that's kind of why I took the class as well, because I knew that it would be a lot of impromptu writing, and I wanted to kind of just get some experience with that in a subject area that wasn't necessarily English, where you could kind of use like facts to back up your writing, if that makes any sense. So like I said, I also took AP Lang, and I will say AP Lang kind of kicked my butt. I really liked my teacher, however, she was a very hard grader, and that kind of threw me for a loop mentally because in other English classes I had kind of been easily skating by. They weren't that challenging because our school didn't really offer honors. It kind of was just like you did normal classes until you got to your junior year. So basically I had been used to kind of English being easy, whatever. I knew it was going to be a little harder, but definitely the weighting of essays and the fact that like it was very subjective kind of bugged me a bit. However, I will say I think she prepped us well as well. I'm not really sure, honestly, the amount of, like, I don't have really any advice for the prep you could do necessarily, just because a lot of it's just practice in class. I'd say definitely get a sense of the time. But other than that, the exam was good, and I was really happy with my result. So after yapping about those two, the scores that I ended up getting my junior year, I got a 5 on APUSH and a 5 on AP Lang, which was really exciting. I screamed when I got those scores because, as you know or may not know, AP scores are really important for going abroad because they kind of use them as a benchmark for like the qualifications. So for example, a lot of the universities I was looking at, you needed 3 5s, and getting those 2 5s up front and then maybe having the one to worry about next year was a really great thing for me, because that way I already was at least halfway there or all of the way there in some universities' cases. So that really helped me kind of like calm down a little bit, and I was really grateful for those results. So in terms of specific advice for each of those 2 exams that I took my junior year, I'd say for APUSH, my biggest advice is make sure you're familiar with the format. Make sure you take timed tests. I'm sure they have a bunch of practice tests online. Do the ones on AP Classroom. Sit yourself down and be stringent with it, because the reason why I believe I did so well, other than like I guess like skill or whatever, is that my teacher prepared us very, very well. Like I said, we were doing all of those tests all the time. So by the time I got to the exam, it just felt like an easier version of some of the tests I had been taking in class. And I'm assuming that the ones on AP Classroom will be pretty similar as well, because I know my teacher said he copied some of our materials from there. So I would definitely recommend checking out that resource. There is really so much information on AP Classroom. So I'd say utilize it for the practice test. Definitely do a few. Another thing that I did, especially with like the DBQs and long essays where you had to kind of know all these terms, is I made Quizlets for each unit worth of terms, and then I made a really big one at the end of the unit, like at the end of the year studying for the exam, with every single ID. That way when I was going through them, I was kind of skimming and reviewing this stuff, but I was also doing an overview of kind of the units at the same time, especially because you have to know like specific IDs on the exam, which can be pretty hard. I mean, you don't have to know them, but it's very useful, I'd say, to prove that you know what you're talking about. So getting familiar with that was also very helpful. Now, as for AP Lang, I don't really have as much solid advice. From what I remember of the exam, I thought it was fine, but again, with writing exams, like I said, it's kind of subjective, so you can never really tell how you actually did. I'd say in general, just get comfortable with that timed format and read again some of the practice essays, because we did that in class. We practiced scoring them and stuff like that, just to get a sense of what exactly they're looking for on each prompt, because at the end of the day, you could be great at writing, but if you're not answering the prompt, then you're kind of missing the point and basically the whole essay entirely. So no matter how well you write, if you're not doing what they're asking of you, it's automatically going to put you back several steps, I'd say. So make sure you know what each task is, because I don't remember them specifically because it's been a while, but I know that was important, especially on the exam, knowing what was going to be looked for of me, expected of me, I guess that's a better way of saying it, and just kind of trying to practice that and get an idea of that. It's thundering out, and I don't know if you can hear it on the mic, but I love it. I love storms. Okay, so on to my senior year this year. So I actually initially started taking 4 APs. I had AP Psych in addition to the 3 I mentioned before. However, I did take a week of AP Psych, and maybe it was something about the teacher, maybe it was the content, I don't know, but I kind of realized that this was not for me. It was a lot of, it basically felt like a second APUSH, and I was at the point in my high school career where I wasn't exactly ready to sign up for something like that again, because not only were my college applications kind of done and it was supposed to be a little bit an easier year for me, but I was already going hard on my other APs because I knew they would be quite difficult. So I kind of just decided to let that one go, and I will say that was probably one of my best decisions, unless you're going into necessarily a field that involves that AP, or you're just really interested in it. I'd say that if you're having trouble with something like AP Psych, or maybe it's a different one that you picked up and you're not exactly sure if you should take it or not, I mean, it depends on where you're aiming, but in general, I don't regret having dropped it, and I'm glad I didn't end up taking that exam, because it ended up giving me a lot more time to focus on my other APs and just kind of do my thing. All right, so now my senior AP scores, we're going to talk about them from lowest to highest. I am afraid to report that I did break my 5 streak. I know. No, I'm kidding. I'm proud of my performance this year. I really am, and I'm sharing it just to provide some context for everyone else and hopefully help other people. No matter what happens, it'll all be good. Okay, so for AP Stats, this was my lowest. I'm really, really bad at math, and if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I took this class just to get out of taking AP Calc, because I knew I was not going into math. I knew I did not need that credit, and so I basically chose AP Stats because I knew it would be math, but at least like a little bit different, you know, like it wouldn't be the same, I don't know if difficulty level is the right word, but it would at least be different than traditional math like calculus, which I definitely didn't want to take, especially because I was positive I was not going to be doing anything with math. So in terms of the actual class content, I would say something that's really important is making sure you get familiar with like what work they're looking for on the problems, because unlike with my previous exams, my junior year, this exam was far more, I don't know if specific's the right word, but basically whenever you do a math problem, right, the grader or the teacher is grading for elements of the problem. And so depending on which type of problem it is, you need to make sure you know exactly what should be written down on the paper. I know that's really vague, but honestly, I have the memory of a goldfish and I can't remember exact specifics, but I just remember it being important that you show your work not only the whole way through, but write down specific stuff, for example, like the type of problem it is or like the phrases. And that was one of the pieces of advice my teacher gave our class, which I think was very important. Again, with this one, I was kind of checked out, and I hate to say it, I did my best. I did study. Don't you worry. But math isn't exactly my strong suit, and I got a 3, which honestly, I'm really happy about, considering that I did pretty well in that class, actually. Like, I had a good grade, and I was proud of it, especially, like, for math. And when I got to that exam, I don't know, I sat down, and I just couldn't think. This is part of the reason, I don't even know. Maybe I'm just making excuses. That's probably the case, but I'm just bad at math in general. And this happens to me so often on tests where I know what's going on. I sit down, I see the problem, and everything leaves my mind. It happens embarrassingly much, I'd say. And it definitely happened for me a bit on this exam. The investigative task was kind of just like wild. And again, I'm not the biggest STEM brain, so thinking hypothetically like that was quite difficult. So I'm very proud of my 3. I'm very proud of my pass, and I'm grateful to get, like, I guess the credit, even though they don't even take it at my school. Whatever. Anyway, I'm very glad that I got that score, and I'm happy because honestly, I felt like I flopped on that exam, so grateful. Next is AP Spanish. So I'm actually working on editing my video of my Spain trip, but I went with my school, which was the best experience ever. It really changed my life, and I got really close with my host family. Hola, if you're watching this, I miss you very much. And basically, before my trip to Spain, I had been taking Spanish for about, I'd say like, since middle school, so 8 years. Although, let's be real, middle school Spanish isn't that serious. But anyway, I've been taking it all of high school. And it was definitely something I had knowledge in. Languages are one of my favorite things to learn about. I really love, like, the communication and the nuance of it, and just being able to understand different people is really interesting to me. So I've always loved Spanish, and I was happy to take the AP. I will say, the AP language exams are a gauntlet. Oh my god. I thought APUSH was hard. AP Spanish is hard, and I'm so sorry to say it. Any AP you'll take, AP French will be the same. Basically, it's a little horrific, and you just have to know that going in. The exam is going to be crazy. So basically, it's just like 3 hours, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I don't remember how long it was, of straight talking and listening. And unfortunately, the AP exam people are a bit diabolical in that a lot of the clips and like audio they pick, for example, for like the listening or the like conversation, sometimes can be barely audible. For example, there was one task I remember so vividly on the exam where I literally just couldn't hear what the person was saying, and it was supposed to be like one of those ones where you respond to it, and I just remember sitting there and being like, oh my god. I looked around the room, and the faces of everyone else just was like sheer horror. It was bad. So all this to say, my best advice for AP Spanish would be to do a bunch of the practice ones, because again, with hard exams like this where it's kind of more of like, I guess the format is the challenge, because, you know, you can't study for the exact prompts they're going to give you. So the only thing you can do really is study the format. The one thing I'd say is really important is making sure you get the timing of things such as the cultural comparison and the email down. Make sure you time those out and like get familiar with it. We definitely did a bunch of practices of those in class, although I will say I actually nearly cried after my cultural comparison on the exam, which is so embarrassing, but I don't know what happened. My brain actually short-circuited, and I was just sitting there like, Emma, you are basically fluent in Spanish. You lived with a Spanish family, and you are sitting here and you don't know what to say. So overall, wasn't my best performance on an exam. I literally thought I failed. I thought I was going to get a 2, and so I am very, 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 very happy with my 4. I'm actually so proud of that. Obviously, not the perfect score, but considering how awfully I felt that I performed on the test day, I really just was so shocked and happy to see that score. So thanks, AP graders, you're real ones for that. It definitely made me feel like less of a failure, because again, I can converse perfectly well in Spanish, but there were just several things, like for example, me totally blacking out on that cultural comparison and that one audio recording that kind of messed me up and had me really wigging for the whole exam. So lastly, we have AP Lit. So I was really excited to take AP Lit because I'd say AP Lang, while it is definitely writing focused, is a bit more maybe of analytical and factual writing, whereas AP Lit I think leans a bit more into style, which I'm a creative writer. Obviously, I write books. So I was very, very, very excited for this class, and it definitely did not disappoint. I will say the actual class of it seemed a bit silly in the moment, but we did end up being pretty well prepared. I'd say my advice for prep for this is they have a list of books that usually come up on the exam. They have many of these. I believe they're online or just texts that come up often on the AP exam. Now, hopefully your class will be prepping you in some of these texts. I know my class did, but make sure you're also outside reading some of these books on your own time. We definitely had to do that. We had an outside reading book per quarter. I mean, obviously I read more than that because I'm a reader. I know some people only did the bare minimum, but either way, it seemed to work out for everyone. So I'd say incorporating that sort of outside, I don't know, just investigating the book list beyond what actually goes on in class really makes the difference, because then when you're responding to a prompt, you not only have personal knowledge to add, but also knowledge beyond maybe what your peers might be able to say, which I think is really important, especially when a lot of people are likely going to be using the same examples, such as Medea or Antigone or King Lear. I don't know. Those are just a few that kind of came to me off the top of my head, but I know there are a lot that get used quite often. So doing your own reading and I guess research really, I think, makes the difference. And I'd really recommend taking this class if you like reading, because that also makes it 10 times easier, and it's just really nice. Now, a part of this exam is the close reading questions, and I know that people found these very hard, but honestly, my best advice for the close reading questions is read. I know this is literally the advice I just gave, but I'm telling you, I didn't find the close reading hard at all, because I have read a bunch and reading is one of my hobbies, and so not only is my I guess reading speed a little bit faster than I guess the average person who doesn't read as much, but also comprehension and being able to use context clues, stuff that you can't really teach in a classroom that I get from reading on my own, I think really pulled me through, especially in the multiple choice. I thought it was really easy, and I know that's an unpopular opinion, but again, I think it was really my own personal reading and my own personal, I guess, I said, investigation that really helped me do well on that, because honestly, it was tricky. I'm not going to say it's not, but a lot of the skills that you learn from just actually sitting down and consuming books by yourself and genuinely loving to read are some of the skills that make the difference on that exam, especially in the multiple choice part. Dun dun! So now for the reveal. I got a 5 on AP Lit, and yeah, that one really meant a lot, because I don't know, I had a few schools in the UK that gave me offers basically saying if I got a 5 on AP Lit, I could go there. Ultimately, I didn't choose to accept those because St. Andrews has always been my dream school, and the fact that they didn't give me any conditions just made it all the better. But seeing that reaffirmation that even if I maybe hadn't gotten an acceptance from St. Andrews, which, let's be real, it's tricky, there definitely was a chance I might not have gotten in, made me feel a lot better, because I don't know, it just made me feel like I was capable at something that I'm not only going in to study but have worked a long time on, and it just really felt like a win for me. So I'm proud of that one. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was definitely a bit more yapperific, and again, I apologize for the camera quality. I'm going to be recording on my better camera and plugging the mic into my computer, but for now it's literally nighttime and I was a bit too lazy to do that whole setup, so I decided to just take out the camcorder, make a nice chill video. I hope some of this insight helped you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. And if you're interested in me making more like broad high school advice video, for example, like other things like social or athletic, or maybe just like overall academic, not just APs, I would definitely be open to doing something like that. So just let me know down below if that's something you'd like to see from me. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'm definitely quite tired, so I hope I made at least a little bit of sense, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!